Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Today we're going to talk more about night vision and specifically how you can save your night vision from certain doom and destruction, which would make you cry and hurt your bank account, your wallet, and possibly lead your wife to divorce you when you inevitably go and buy more because you can't live without it. I get it, guys. But what we're going to talk about specifically here is night vision and helmets and the retention behind it, because if I had $1 for every time I went out with the boys and somebody was not running some kind of secondary or even just some kind of positive retention because they either just didn't know that that's something that they should do, or they had forgot about it, or they just didn't care, I'd have at least a little bit of money saved up. It's a really easy thing to do. It's something that when you're going through your pre-equipment checks, it should be included on that list if you are intending to use night vision, whether that's in a law enforcement capacity, maybe you're on a team or something. Obviously, if you're in the military, you guys know better than anybody what happens if somebody loses night vision in the field. Then you all get to go line up and go take a step-by-step search of the entire area you are at until somebody can recover that magic little device, no matter how salty it is. And then you're probably all sleep deprived and on lockdown. And then when you figure out who did it, you beat the ever-loving snot out of them, or at least, you really want to. But retention is really important. Losing these devices can mean anything from, a loss of time and sleep, if they're not yours and they belong to your unit or something, to potentially even loss of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in some instances, as many of these units, depending on the housing, if they're, binos or quad tubes, right? The kind of tubes that are in them, things like that. This stuff gets pretty pricey pretty quickly. Before we get into this week's video, though, I want to make sure I say thank you to our sponsor, Custom Night Vision. You guys, if you're not familiar with Custom Night Vision, they are a podcast sponsor of The Prepared Mindset, and they've been working with us for several years now, and they are some fantastic people based out of Houston. They offer all kinds of bino housings, monocular housings like PVS 14s and Tontos. They have great options from tubes from L3 and Elbit and Photonis and more. You guys, you can head over to customnightvision.com, check all of that stuff out. They have great prices, very competitive, many times best in market, if I do say so. And for that reason, I do want to point out that, while I don't think there's any bias in this because this isn't really a review video, the night vision that we're going to talk about here, or that is going to be used in this discussion, was provided to me by the team over at Custom Night Vision. And this helmet here, this PGD Arc Gen 3 helmet, was provided to me by the crew over at Protection Group Denmark. Now, that said, let's jump into night vision retention. Okay, so we're talking about retaining your night vision. What does that mean? In general layman's terms, it means retaining or holding on to your night vision. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. Now, one of the more legacy options that you'll see is to have something, either a hole or something that's drilled into the housing of the night vision unit itself. What's happened recently is you get companies that make these insanely tiny little, almost needle-like holes in the housing and expect you to run a hook or something through them. That's not really realistic. So what we've moved to in a lot of instances is running jump rings through those. If you don't know what a jump ring is, think about like a keychain ring, but just very small here. We run those through the holes on the housing, and then what we're able to do is to go ahead and put this on our mount. And then many helmets, if not all helmets, come with some sort of retention, like these, the PGD here. This is the same kind of hook and retention you'll find with like Ops Core, where it's basically just like a bungee lanyard here with some shrink wrap around a metal hook. You can hook that into your jump ring. Okay. Now you have your quote unquote positive retention on your night vision device because, like we've talked about in other videos and many other people have as well, right? These G24 style mounts, because a lot of them out there, they are breakaway mounts. Meaning that if your head were to, or your night vision, right, were to ever catch on a branch or a doorway or something like that, to save your neck from breaking and you from therefore dying, this mount is to break away and come off the helmet. The problem with that, while it does save your life, is that it is holding on to your night vision device. And the night vision device will stay in the dovetail mount, so then your mount and your nods will come off of your head. So you have these bungee straps here, these hooks that are put there in place to retain them, so that if this whole thing comes off, yes, you're probably going to get hit in the face with your night vision. It's going to happen. But it's better than the alternative. Like, what would you rather have? Like a cut across the bridge of your nose, a little bit of blood, and your buddy's making fun of you for the next 5 years of your life? Or lose a $10,000 unit with a $150 to $600 mount and never find it again and cry yourself to sleep. I mean, I would take the cut most days of the week over that. So most helmets do come with some kind of bungee strap like this. These are okay. They're not fantastic. And some companies are just downright terrible. I'll talk for a minute about the Team Wendy helmet. Now, I will say Team Wendy, I'm a fan. These are really, really comfortable helmets. I think for that reason, especially this is a bump helmet, they're very light, very comfortable, good padding. They offer a lot of good solutions. And they come with everything you need out of the box, including their bungee retention system. However, the bungee retention system, it sucks. So they give you a couple lengths of shock cord. That's what this is just shock cord. And you double it over and make it into a big, thick knot. And with their rail system, at least currently, now I know they have some new models out that are utilizing the arc rail design, so that may change. But on the 2.0 and 3.0, I think it's the X-Fill rails, you have to find the large spot in the rail here. You insert this big old knot into here, and then force it forward. And then that friction retention is all that's going to keep your little shock cord retention thing, tab, I don't know what you want to even call this. That's all that's going to keep that in there. And then this is supposed to stretch forward and hook onto your night vision device, which, hey, Austin, how is that any different from what you just showed me on the PGD? Well, it's not. Except that if you guys look at what they provide you, these are not metal hooks, these are plastic hooks, and they're like 8 times as thick as those metal ones. So let's look at these 1431s. You have the same metal jump rings on here, and sometimes they will fit on, they'll fit into these little metal jump rings. Let me see if I can make this one work for the video. It's kind of a huge pain. All right, so they will work if you have jump rings in there. If you don't have jump rings, you have to do something like zip ties, and I mean, it'll work. It's not the best though, and I know that over time, if you're using these retention lanyards on the sides here a lot, they will wear out and they will stretch out. I've seen videos from guys like GBRS Group where they talk about they actually tie a knot in the middle of them because it then effectively shortens the length, and then you get that tension that you want back on that shock cord tab. The concerns with these kinds of things are that these are open-ended hooks. They're essentially just fish hooks with a much less dull point to them. So there's a lot of open space to that, and they could come unhooked, they could come undone. If they get snagged on something as you're going through the bush, the brush, what have you, you might lose your device, which is where we then have the introduction of some aftermarket options that make things a heck of a lot more secure and a heck of a lot more better, really, for lack of a better term. Where I'll start is this from Jawless Hog Tactical. I don't remember the exact name. This is their night vision retention lanyard. It might just be called the night vision retention lanyard. And actually, I do like this. It is kind of bulky for what it is, so it's not perfect in my mind, but I will say that it offers some things that maybe some other options don't. So you have this big flat panel here of Tigris material, and you see that they run the shock cord through it. It does have an adjustable retainer up here on the top, tie a knot in the back, so you can adjust how much pull you want, how much length you want. So you can put this on the crown of the helmet, on the very top. You could roll it back to the back of the helmet, and then you have a lot more tension pulling these things forward. It just depends on how you like to run it. It does also have some loop on the top here, so even though this will cover up the top of your helmet, you do have an open section if you needed to put something there like a IR strobe. You're not giving up that real estate. And because you have this big flat panel, you have a much larger piece of Velcro here to secure all of this. Now, what makes this a little bit different is at the end of the lanyard, you do have heat shrink around it, but then you have these locking clasp like C-hooks on the end of it. So it's a completely enclosed hook, and their kit actually does, it comes with the jump rings and it comes with this. So what you can do is take this and mount it, Velcro it onto the top of the helmet here. And these can hang down on either side of your mount. If they're not in use, you can actually just run them under the mount and clip them together. And then they're not going to be dangling into your face and things like that, making a whole ton of racket. But this way, you can go ahead, take your night vision, and you can hook it into your mount. And then these will clip into your jump rings. And then you have night vision retention. And then you can just adjust how tight or how loose you like it, depending on your personal preference, depending on the unit that you're running, the housing. Some are larger, some are smaller. Some have the jump rings on the outside. I know if you're running quads, if you're one of those blessed souls, you know, you have options and things like that, and you can tighten it up and adjust it. So that's one way of solving that retention issue. If you have a helmet like the Team Wendy, or maybe you bought something maybe off of Wish or Temu or something that just didn't come with these because everything's an upcharge and it's not a well thought out product. That's one solution. Another one, which I actually happen to like a little bit more personally, just because it's more utilitarian, is the RAT, which I don't actually remember what that stands for, but it's made for night vision retention by Unobtainium gear. And so here's some benefits on this. It's actually available on Amazon for like 15 bucks. And I know we don't like Amazon. Jeff Bezos is the evil, overlord. However, what I will say is that how many times you get a $15 or $25 gift card, either from like a relative or for doing your job at your job. And then you're like, what am I gonna buy for $25 on Amazon? Well, these are about 15 bucks. And I think there's like $5 shippings or something. So after tax, you're right about to that $25 mark. And this is just a very, very simple loop of elastic with a Velcro section that does slide here. So you can make this real short if you want, or you can max it out from all the length that you want. And you'll notice there's no metal hardware in here. So that meaning probably less noise overall. And how this works, we'll take the MH1s here and unhook them. How this works, you will open up your device. Now, if you do have a fixed bridge device, it'll still work the same way. It's gonna be a little bit more annoying, but this shouldn't be going on and off all the time anyways. So you open up your device, you can see it all splayed out here. And what you'll do is actually wrap this loop around it, and you will run the retention tab through the loop and pull it tight. Wham, look at that. Super easy, a third grader could do it. And it's Velcro backed here. So you can just run it up onto your helmet. However tight you wanna make this thing, you can just, adjust the tab back here if you wanna run it towards the, the front of your helmet for some reason, or the back or whatever. And this will work with the PVS 14. You can do it around your J-arm or something. This will obviously work on bridged binos and things like that. Super, super universal and field repairable. Just keep like a length of shock cord in your gear. And if this were to go down or wear out, somehow, it's very repairable and very easy to fix yourself. I think it's a great, great solution. That way you can actually even just take this, close it up, kind of roll it over onto itself here, and then drop it into storage when you're not using your night vision. And you don't have to worry about if, whatever helmet you're running has that retention lanyard. You don't have to worry about if you're lending it to a buddy, if they're going to take care of it. You know that you're handing that out. And maybe even if you work at a law enforcement agency, you're the armorer, or maybe you're in a guard unit and you're the supply person, you don't have to worry about if that's gonna be taken care of the way it should be. You're handing it out with a lanyard already installed. If the lanyard breaks or gets destroyed or comes back missing, it's not a huge loss. Like I have 2 of them because they're very cheap and very effective. Unobtainium gear, I paid my own money for these. Cool company, I like the products they make. Certainly there's, I think Kinetic Consulting makes one called, I think it's the Nerd, that's somewhat similar to this. I know T-Rex Arms makes one. There's lots of options out here for night vision retention. Now I will say on this one, the detractor when you compare it to something like the Jawless Hog is that you do lose real estate. So this one has material on the top of it as well as the Velcro on the bottom. So you mount it to the helmet, you are not losing any real estate. You have loop here on the top like you would on your helmet or your helmet cover to mount an IR strobe or something. This one does not have that. It's just Cordura material here. And it's a little bit smaller. So it depends on kind of what you want, what you need, what your general feeling is. I think both of these are honestly good options, however way you go about doing it. I think most people will tell you that have spent any amount of time running night vision though, that these little hooks here on the sides, they're not bad, but if you've run your helmet for more than a year or so, that you should really look into some kind of alternative, another way to retain your night vision, because those things stretch out, they fail, they have issues, they're not great to begin with. It's just one of those things that as an industry, we haven't really figured out that we should be doing better. And when we lose these devices, so it doesn't matter what it is, maybe it's some 1431s with some L-bit tubes, like what I have here, or those MH1s that I had a moment ago with L3, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars, and that hurts, whether you're an agency, whether you're a singleton like you and I. If I were to lose these and then have to financially replace them, it would hurt me in my heart very badly. And for a lot of us, that's just not in the cards. If you lose your night vision, you're screwed. And it's not always just backtracking your steps through a wooden trail or something like that, right? A lot of people use night vision for boating and aviation. So if you're hanging out the side of a helicopter because you work in search and rescue or you're a flight medic, and you lose retention and these things go for a swan dive or they fall into the drink, you're not finding these. It's not oh, well, it'll just suck having to go back and walk the woods. No. If you use your night vision for other means than just walking through the woods and LARPing with your buddies, much respect, it's a bad time. So retention is important. Yes, there are retention devices included in almost every decent helmet on the market. Are they good enough is the question that I would urge you guys all to ask yourself. I think that after taking an honest look at it, you would probably agree that they're not as good as they should be. So hopefully this helps. You can mount them directly on the top of your helmet. I've seen some guys mount them off to the side if you have something like a Mohawk camera. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. It just has to make sure that if you were to lose the mount or something, your mount were to fail, whatever have you, you're not going to lose the night vision itself. And that's regardless, again, single tube, binos, quad tubes, whatever have you. Keeping this stuff retained to your noggin is the goal. So spend the $15. Like I said, you can pick up one of these. You can pick up one of these rats from an Unobtainium gear for $15 on Amazon. You want to support some cool dudes over at Jawless Hog, you can go to the HRT website. They did, full disclosure, send me this one. I don't know if I said that already. Even this though, it's like $30 and it comes with everything that you need, including the jump rings to connect onto the housing of your night vision device. This will work for a PVS 14. This will work for binos. This will work for quads. Like I said, you don't lose any real estate. It's got a nice big field of Velcro, so cool for that. What I would honestly and totally recommend for people when they ask, hey, I want to get my first helmet, I honestly, right now, I steer them towards the Team Wendy bump helmet because for the comfort and the price, I think it's one of the best options on the market. Really, really love the Team Wendy bump helmet. The thing I hate about the Team Wendy bump helmet, though, like I mentioned a moment ago, are these just terrible retention lanyards that I don't know how they haven't gotten away from these things yet. I saved them so that I have them later on down the line should I ever want to sell the helmet. I usually just put them in, see, Nods bungees. I just put them in a little bag here. I'm never going to use these things ever. I purchased alternative options so that I was never faced with having to use these. But you know, it's a good helmet. It just, these things suck. So still a good option. Just know that when you go in, you're probably have to drop another $15 to $30 to fill that gap if you're buying the helmet for something other than communications. If you're just buying it to run contacts, then cool. But night vision is awesome. If you are running nods, take care of your investment, you guys. It's to me, it's in line with paying good money for good plates or good plate backers and things like that with your PPE. You spend a ton of money on this equipment. Spend just a little bit more to make sure that you're taking care of it. You're not going to lose it in some freak boating accident. You know, I know we all like that joke about losing all of our guns in a boating accident, but almost none of us actually have. And if we lost our night vision, given that that's not really a restricted item the way firearms are, we would be in a world of hurt. Many of us buy night vision one time in our life, and that's about all we can afford. So take care of it. It will take care of you. I hope this stuff has been helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. As always, make sure you guys are hitting the subscription button, the notifications bell, so you're not missing any of this when it comes out. That's it. That's all I got. Thanks for hanging out, you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.